Incompetent people surround me wherever I go, and I wish it wasn't out of line to tell them so. The waiter never seems to get my order right. Seems like I got to complain almost every night. How much longer can I take this abuse? I try to be nice, but what's the use when I'm the only one that does anything right? Sometimes it seems like the world is run by chimpanzees, even though some of them might come with college degrees. It's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction, but I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world, everybody's wrong but me.
Welcome to Uncommon Sense. My name is Charlotte Laws, and today we're going to be discussing the 2008 presidential election, whether America should talk to its enemies, baby terrorists, and those who fly not business class, not first class, but bathroom class. But first, I would like to introduce my esteemed panelists. We have Ralph Cissne, who is a writer, a well-respected writer and creative strategist. Welcome.
Thanks,
and we have Garret Swayne, who is a talented singer-songwriter. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
The first topic we're going to discuss has to do with environmentalism. And they're at Oberlin College in Vermont. The school has put money into a house that is called SEED, S-E-E-D, which is a student experiment in ecological design. And so the students, they have competitions to take the shortest shower. And one way they motivate themselves is they have a picture of John Edwards on the ceiling of the shower because he had the best global warming plan, they said. And of course, because they don't want to be watched by John Edwards, that makes them get out of the shower even more quickly. They keep their temperature low in the house. They only have one fridge for something like 25 students. And they do worm composting, I believe, in the living room. Kind of gross to have worms crawling around in some kind of a garbage can in your living room, but they do whatever they can to help the environment.
Okay.
Seems they could have the worms outside.
Yeah, I would think so too, but maybe they get cold. I don't know.
We used to have a composting pile when I was growing up, but it was in the backyard. You actually sink a barrel in the ground full of earth, and you have the earthworms, and they multiply, and it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for them, and it's good for us.
Well, I've always said worms, in a way, are like the highest being, because without worms, plants would not exist, and without plants, no life would exist. So I always say worms are crucial, and that makes them kind of the highest being, in a sense.
I've heard you say that before. she says that all the time.
The birds and the bees.
I never
and
understood
the
it
worms.
until now.
I think it's great, though, that college students, it's not just at this college, it seems to be at universities all over the country.
Well, ironically enough, and I read this article as well, that in 1972, that's when I graduated from college, that during the late 60s, early 70s, everybody was talking about this. I mean, the Silent Spring was published soon after that. Everybody was talking about this, and guess what? Within 5 years, they're all driving station wagons. They've got 3 kids and a mortgage, and they're doing none of this. So if they can sustain this, I'm optimistic that everybody in my generation, not everybody, but most of them, just kind of sold out. I've always recycled. I've always done what I could, but believe me, I back in Oklahoma where I grew up, that was kind of the exception, and it's unfortunate. So if these kids can really not only do it in their own way, but make a difference by making an impact out in their communities, because that's where it really makes a difference.
Well, we'll see, once they graduate from Oberlin College and when they go back to get their first apartment, whether they do the same thing,
They say that the future is also cardboard houses that are transportable, lightweight, and they use these in Japan, and these are environmentally sound. It saves trees, they're recyclable, and that's kind of the future. And it's funny
Cardboard?
because cardboard, that's what they say, yeah.
Who says that?
The various articles, and I've heard this before.
Where are you getting your new house? Well, the Maytag repairman left the big box. I'm cutting some windows with my Razor blade.
Right.
Well, the next topic comes from Japan, and it has to do with cigarette vending machines. And there are 570,000 cigarette vending machines there. And what they have come up with is a device to try to weed out those who are underage. And the device can examine the wrinkles on your face to see if the device believes you're old enough to be actually purchasing cigarettes. You have to be over the age of 20 to get cigarettes in
But
Japan.
if you started smoking when you were like 10 years old, by the time you get to be 16 or 17, you've got plenty of
That's
wrinkles.
probably true. Yeah, they're supposed to be about 90% accurate.
But I
So
mean,
you'd put your ID in if you failed the wrinkle test.
oh, really?
Then you'd put your ID. It seems like it'd be the other way around, but that's maybe.
The way most kids get around that, they just have their friends that are over 20 buy their beer and cigarettes for them, and that's the way we got around it. I'm sure that the kids in Japan are smart enough to do that too.
Right. Me too. Same with that.
Did you ever have a fake ID?
Yes.
You did?
No, I didn't.
And what did you use it for?
Huh?
Buying beer, and I came out of a liquor store with a case of Michelob, and 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, looking for a big party that night. And there's a police officer standing right there, and he looked at me and said, "Look, should I ask for your ID?" And I said, "I don't think so." He said, "You know where the police department is?" I said, "Yes, I do." So I followed him down there, and they let me go, but I surrendered my beer. And I said, "What do you guys do with all that beer you collect?" He said, "Oh, we put it to good use." So, that's my,
We donated to the poor.
that's
We donated to orphanages.
they donated to law enforcement. So that's my fake ID story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a fake ID too for a
Yeah.
little while. I never used it to get alcohol.
I'm
but
thinking of getting one.
You are?
Yeah.
And what are you going to use it for?
Buy beer.
Because you think you would fail the wrinkle test.
I know I would. Yeah. I've failed every other test I've ever faced in my life.
Well, the next topic has to do with the election. And pretty exciting. Today is the 5th of June, 2008. And Hillary Clinton is believed to be, she's she's out basically stopping her campaign and supposedly endorsing Obama
On Saturday, she's supposed to do that.
on Friday. Well, I heard Friday.
Okay.
And
She's suspending her campaign.
right, suspending, and I guess she's not releasing her delegates either. I mean, I haven't heard that she's releasing her delegates. So as far as we know, they're still all going to show up to the
She's not
convention.
going to release her delegates to the convention because between now and then, who knows?
Right.
Jeremiah Wright could have like a bullfrog or something that comes up, jumps out of the.
I think she's, what I hear, of course, one never knows really what is going on, but I hear that it seems like she's trying to basically strong arm her way into being offered the vice presidency. And
Well, there's a petition now online to try to get signatures for basically pushing for her to be the vice presidential candidate. I don't think she'll be asked, honestly.
I mean, I could see why that would be a very electable, attractive ticket, just considering what's going on. But could you imagine being Barack Obama and having not Hillary but Bill as well?
Well, his campaign said when asked about whether he would want Hillary whether they would want Hillary on the ticket, they said we would have to hire a food taster. That was their comment. Which I think is a pretty good comment.
that is great.
What do you think about McCain for his running mate? I know there's a list of about maybe 5 or 6 names that have been floating around, from the governor of Louisiana to the governor of Florida,
Jindal.
Minnesota.
Jindal's too young.
Crest,
Why is he too young?
Palenti.
He doesn't have enough executive experience. I think the governor of Florida would be a really strong vice president. Yeah, he's Chris. He's got a huge following in Florida, and that's a critical state. I mean, whoever wins the election.
You know who I think is good choice, which I would never have said this before, but is Joe Lieberman. And the reason is because this year it's the year basically of the Democrat, and people want to vote for a Democrat. But
It would be a wild card.
But John McCain is a more
centrist,
appealing candidate, I think, than Barack Obama to the mainstream of the country. So they'd like to be able to vote for McCain. But the Democrats have all these ads out, like McSame, McBush, another Bush-McCain term.
Well, that's going to backfire.
And if McCain picks somebody like Lieberman, those ads go away. You can't say McSame anymore because that would be an amazing thing.
Personally, I think those ads are going to go away anyway because McCain is so not like Bush. on every single
I agree, yeah.
level. I mean, that they won't be able to make that stick. But the thing is, and Lieberman would be a very interesting and kind of a gutsy choice, but it probably would really alienate a lot of the right wing.
Yeah, right.
They're already alienated.
That's true. They don't like McCain anyway.
None of them like McCain.
I heard Rush Limbaugh going against him all day yesterday.
Right.
So,
So it might be good, but I think it will. My sense is it might be Lieberman, but I think it's probably going to either be Huckabee.
Oh, no.
Or
so.
Jindal, or it will be. I heard about this, like a wild card choice that I read about the other day. Is the governor of Alaska?
It's a woman.
She said she wouldn't take it.
She said she wouldn't take it.
No, she just had a kid. She's got like 5 kids. It's like, how could she be vice president? She's got like.
The vice president doesn't do anything. Everybody
she's
knows
got
that.
Chores. She has chores.
She has plenty of time.
Right.
Plus Alaska, she's really committed to.
It could also be Colin Powell. Might be a pretty wild card choice.
I don't think he would do it.
Condoleezza Rice already said she wouldn't do it.
Well, that would be the worst choice because
she was
that
out
would
shopping
be,
for
that
shoes.
would be
when
so.
She's too
Katrina
close
hit.
to Bush.
That would give them the whole "you're just like Bush"
Yeah,
thing.
that's
you
true.
know.
No, but
True.
I think the candidates should be forced to give indications of who their cabinet members would be. We'll obviously know what the vice presidential choices are at the convention or in advance of that. So I think it's important to know what team they surround themselves with to govern, because Obama has run a brilliant campaign, very well organized, very fluid. They've done all the right things. So I would like to know who he's going to surround himself with.
Well, it may come out. But my prediction is that McCain will either choose Huckabee or Lieberman.
Really?
If Colin Powell won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if, that's
On a scale from 1 to 9, where do you think you are politically? 1 being liberal, 9 being conservative. Where would you put yourself on that list?
I put myself a 5.
A 5, and where would you
Well,
put
it depends on what you call liberal.
Which issue?
No, I know. I mean, I
which
think it's
issue?
very hard to do too.
It
And
depends
I
on what
would-
you call liberal, because in some ways I am a classic liberal in that I'm open-minded and I'm willing to take a solution from any end of the spectrum that works, that can prove to work. On the other hand, well, there is no other hand.
on the other hand, you're closed-minded.
I'm a classic liberal in that sense, but many of my people who now call themselves liberals consider me a right-wing wacko, because I think the whole goalposts of liberalism has moved so far to the left.
If you're willing to have a conversation about any of these issues, you're considered by the left or the right, you're considered like somebody who's like, off their medication. So like, to me, I will always vote for someone who's going to lower my taxes and cut government waste.
Even if they're a murderer.
No. No. But when it comes to things like, drugs, the war on drugs has been a complete failure.
Right.
We've got a third of the people in prisons are drug-related
Right.
cases. That's a health issue. That's not a criminal issue. We shouldn't be spending all this money to incarcerate these people. We should have them doing community service and paying fines. That's like a very simple thing to do.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because they did a poll to find out kind of where people are, and people consider themselves at a 5.85. That's kind of the number that comes out. And McCain is like 5.94, but Obama is at 4.1. So when it comes to issues and where people are, where people believe, they see themselves closer to McCain, but there's an emotional feeling towards Obama that is appealing to people.
But you look at the map, and it's like East Coast, Northeast, West Coast, Northeast, heavily Democratic, sort of leaning oriented toward the
coasts.
The left, yeah. And that's where we choose to live, because I prefer more liberal ideas. I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but I prefer them in general. But you look at the rest of the country, it's all red.
Yeah.
Well,
another thing that's interesting too is I found an article where it says your genes, which I've always believed very strongly in this, that your genes determine more than just physicalities, but it determines your moral beliefs, and it also says it determines your political choices. And that people, for example, that have the A2 version of the D2 dopamine receptor gene,
Oh.
or more likely to adhere to party, not to be an independent, to kind of attach to groups and that kind of thing. And it's just kind of interesting because they've broken it
What was
down.
that gene again?
Well, there's several genes located here,
Well,
and
but
I'm
that-
not even going to mention it again because it's too long a name.
that's-
Okay, but that's
Because
true.
those
but how-
people are all a bunch of sheep.
but how your brain functions is really important.
That's an insult to sheep, by the way.
If the limbic system is sending you a message going, eat chocolate, take drugs, do this, do that, you can always say no. So that's where the addiction response hits the wall. If you want to build one, you have to exercise some willpower. Personal responsibility.
Well, what about the idea, which is along the same lines of the election, it has to do with America, whether we should talk to our enemies or not. And of course, Obama has come out and said pretty much without condition that we should talk to people that America considers, leaders that America considers questionable.
Right, like
and McCain
Ahmadinejad.
says that's a very bad idea because it's condoning bad behavior, and it's also providing a PR opportunity for certain individuals that we may not want to provide that opportunity for.
First of all, I'm not sure that McCain is characterizing Obama, what his utterance is exactly accurately. In the same way that Obama, mischaracterized McCain's statement about we want to stay in Iraq for the next 100 years. I think, Obama is not saying that, first, I'm going to go talk to Ahmadinejad. It's sort of like, he's just not ruling it out. He's not saying we can't categorically rule that out. We have to have diplomatic overtures to our enemies, and it's not that, we're going to capitulate to them. By talking to them, you don't capitulate to them. But by talking to them, you have a dialogue, and you can sort of feel out where they are, and you can give them an ultimatum.
We do talk to these people. This
right.
is to me, this is like a non-issue. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a subject worth discussing, but in reality is
Thanks a lot.
No, it is worth discussing, but it's a red herring because we're talking with these people all the time.
No,
We have
but-
to it's just
But
like
the perception that people have is
that we
that
don't.
Bush is just this,
you know
cowboy, doing things on his own, not
It's
listening
kind
to
of accurate.
anyone else from other
It's
countries.
sort of accurate. I mean, it's sort of,
his
even if it's
State
not
Department is engaged
even if
with
it's not
North
entire-
Korea,
even if it's-
Syria, all of those places.
even if it's not entirely accurate, it's a disgrace that he's allowed that perception to permeate.
He doesn't control the perception. The
No, he
media
does.
No, he does not.
Well,
he does
in
not.
the way he comes
He
off.
does not. Any more than Bill Clinton controlled his reputation as a womanizer and a liar.
You have to manage your image to the press.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
As much
he's
as you
failed
can.
at that. I mean, but he's
But I
completely
think that's
failed
why
at that.
people support what Obama's saying is because of this perception. And
because Bush
as
is
I
so-
recall in
yeah.
the debate, Obama did say without precondition within the first year, he would meet with a long list
I
of
think he
these
said he'd be
individuals.
willing to.
Yeah, but there's always.
Well, whatever the language was. But the problem is that we don't have a lot of leverage right now
Willing to
in the
means
international
that
arena.
He might respond to an initiative from them, but it's not saying that I'm going to call him up on the phone now and beg to make an appointment with him.
Well, I think that we
yeah.
should, I think that we need to get our leverage back before we just burst in.
The Israelis are ready to take them out in a second's notice, and probably between now and of course they already took out that Syrian nuclear reactor, and if something happens between now and the election, the Israelis can't afford to wait for us to have conversations.
That's probably the most dangerous powder keg, in my opinion, in the whole world.
It has been for 50
right now.
years.
I mean, the fact that Israel almost has no choice but to, tell Iran, if you don't send a peace delegation to talk about ways to defuse this conflict, we're going to have to attack you. Sorry.
I think the Iranian people are awesome. I mean, everybody I've ever met who's come from there, I go, unbelievable. They're sophisticated, they're intelligent. That's a very young country.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just these yo-yos at the top, and we kind of have the same problems here in our government. The yo-yos at the top have these ideas and aren't operating in the best interest of the people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean.
So maybe we should have a community exchange.
Right.
Like town hall meetings.
Yeah.
All through the summer, like John
Yeah.
McCain wants.
I
I
think
that
that's
would be
a great
great.
idea.
I
think
do
it's
too.
You buy some Coca-Cola, we'll buy some Persian rugs. Come on, let's go.
I think it would be nice to have real people asking the questions that are hopefully not screened in a very careful way, and rather than having the media and
Talking
actually
about
be able to
these
watch
town hall meetings.
the
Yeah.
interaction.
I think we're going to
politicians.
have the most elevated political campaign of my lifetime.
No, I think you're right.
Because
I totally agree.
I like both the candidates. They both have really different points of view. And through this discussion, they may even, kind of, modify their points of view as I think it's going to be a very elevated discussion.
I agree with you, and I certainly hope so.
Well, the next topic is terrorism, and
I love that.
Hassam Alahi is a university professor from San Jose, and he's on the terrorist watch list, and he would get stopped when he would fly. And so now what he has done to counteract that essentially is first of all, whenever he travels somewhere, he calls the FBI to tell them exactly where he's going to be. Secondly, he put up a website that he walks around with a GPS device in his pocket. So the website has like a little red arrow, and it shows exactly where he is at all times. You can just, go all the way in and see exactly where he is. And it also shows he sends these pictures to the website all day, every day, which shows the meals he eats, the toilet he goes to the bathroom in. I mean, every single building he enters.
What's his point? What's he trying to?
Because his point is to give them all that information.
But does he have sponsors? I mean, he should have a corporate sponsor.
I don't think he does. But the idea is that, when you've got this big brother thing going where the government's like, trying to see who's doing what and this and that. He says if you just give as much information as possible to the government, they'll be so inundated and overwhelmed, they won't be able to have this Patriot Act kind of
against it when we come over the gates with our scimitars drawn. I mean, does he claim that there's no reason? Why does the government have him on a watch list?
Apparently it was a mistake. There are actually 1 million people on the terrorist watch list.
Right.
In fact, Nelson Mandela is currently on the terrorist watch list because of his anti-apartheid activities in the 1960s.
I'm sure it's easier to get on the list than it is to get off of it.
Absolutely, that's true. Condoleezza Rice says this is highly embarrassing that Nelson Mandela is on the list.
Right.
And
couldn't she get his name?
Well, she's working to try to do that right now.
God.
Ted Kennedy was on the terrorist watch list, U.S. Senator. It took him over 3 years to get his name off the terrorist watch list.
Why?
Because it's not easy to get your name off.
Because of his consumption of scotch?
That is ridiculous. Ray Charles was strip searched once going through, and I think to myself, Ray Charles, he'd be the first guy Al-Qaeda goes after, to recruit him.
The Bridge to Nowhere.
It's so silly.
The guy, the Bridge to Nowhere, Don Young, which is
Alaska?
Yeah, Alaska. He's on the terrorist watch list.
Really?
Loretta Sanchez. These are all people that they either are or were on the list.
How do you know? Maybe you're on the list.
That could be. But it's disgraceful that...
Garret, Swayne, troubadour.
It is, to me, I think it's really disgraceful that we don't have more fluidity, that there's not greater, okay, we need to have a Homeland Security Department. We need to have, things in place where people get, where there are terrorist watch lists. However, there has to be some way to alter that because, or we're, it's just
Well, there's also
ridiculous.
the no-fly list, which you're not supposed to be able to fly on airplanes, and there are 100,000 people currently on that list. 90 of them are children, and 14 of them are under the age of 2. So we have baby terrorists on that particular list.
This is an example of government gone crazy, don't you think?
No.
I mean, I'm all in favor of very strict Homeland Security and really lists.
The government should be spending its resources prosecuting senators and congressmen for corruption with their earmarks and padding their own bank accounts. This is ridiculous.
Well, the number one domestic terrorists are considered animal rights activists and environmentalists.
So you're probably on it.
So I'm probably on the
probably on
list.
the terrorist watch
and it's
list.
called the Green Scare.
And
like
now
we had
I
the
am
Red
because
Scare. You talk to
I
me.
associate with you.
That's right. That's right. So
listen, I eat meat and everything.
Yeah, but you've never threatened to blow up an In-N-Out burger, have you?
Steak.
Just a McDonald's.
Listen.
No. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of
Not me.
crazy though, because unions have, thousands of cases of violence by union members, but they're not considered terrorists. You have the anti-abortion activists that have killed, something like 7 doctors have been killed and a lot of people injured and clinics blown up. They're not considered terrorists. They're not, when you read newspaper articles, you see criminals. The anti-abortion activist is a criminal, but the animal rights people, terrorists, all the way down the line through the media. So that's the depiction out there.
Well, but if you're going to lead a cause leading it with violence is not the answer.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, I mean, you look at people who have really made a huge difference to millions and millions of people. They didn't do it by throwing Molotov cocktails.
But there are quotes, violent quotes by both of them, and I could find them. I don't have them in front of me, but
there are
quotes saying that sometimes you have to resort to violence, and even though they didn't, they were prepared for that, and they verbally said that.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you're being physically attacked, I'm sure they
no,
should,
that was not. That's
you have the right to defend yourself.
That's not the context that they were speaking in. And on the next show, I'm going to actually bring the quotes for you, and I'll tell you what they are. Why don't we talk about the violence at the border, since we're talking about violence? The drug war. Over 4,000 people down at the Mexican-American border have been killed. Police officers, in huge numbers of police officers. It's a huge violence problem. Congress is looking right now at passing something with regards to America spending some money to try to have that beef up security and give equipment to those officers.
I have a solution.
What
to
is
the
your
drug problem.
solution?
We're in Afghanistan now, right? We're trying to rebuild that country. Their whole economy is based around the poppy, and the opium poppy, right? Now, the thing is, we're trying to tell them not to grow the one crop that they have, but they're going to grow it anyway. Heroin addicts are going to get their heroin. So what the United States should do, the United States government should do, is basically, for everybody who is an addict, who can prove they're addicted to heroin, they should basically set up clinics, give them all non-counterfeitable IDs.
This is your save-on solution. I remember hearing about this before.
Well, I mean, for those who haven't heard it, let me just, everybody, anybody who's a known addict gets a non-counterfeitable ID card. They can go into Save-On or Long's Drugs or whatever, show the card, and get a free, clean, non-lethal, pure dose of heroin injected into their veins. They can't have any to take home with them. Let me finish. They can't have any to take home with them. They can go to work or not go to whatever. But the point is, and if you're an addict, you can get this for free. I guarantee you, in a month's time, there will be no more illegal drugs on the street because all the addicts will be coming to the clinics. All the illegal drug cartels will be out of business. We will have given Afghanistan a nice, clean, legal way to make a living, and everybody will be happy. It'll be the end of the heroin problem because there will be no more street heroin available to addict new people. And that is...
So I think we're out of time. And so I want to join you. I want to thank you both for joining me today.
You're not going to even tell me whether you agree with that or not?
I think it's kind of crazy. I think it's a little wacky.
What about Guadalajara?
I mean, it would be the end of the drug wars.
But I agree with you about, I think we
over.
should legalize, that's what I think, or decriminalize certain drugs, if not many.
But that would still leave
drugs.
people addicted.
But anyway, thanks for joining us today, and I hope we brought some uncommon sense into your life.
And another thing.
As you putter through your day, remember, everybody's wrong but me. See you next time. So go ahead, Garrett.
I'm just getting a phone call.
Sometimes it seems like the world is run by chimpanzees. Even though some of them might come with college degrees, it's getting hard to separate the facts from fiction. But I think I can say with obvious conviction that in this old world, everybody's wrong but me. Everybody's wrong to